for business resource, and they tend to align with the different pillars of diversity here at the firm. So most of them, there's for our Asian population, our Black, our Hispanic, women, vets, LGBTQIA. And basically what business resources groups allow us to do is to kind of have a place for people who look like you to kind of congregate and see each other and collaborate, as well as they're a wonderful opportunity, leadership opportunity at the firm for people who may have aspirations of leading, but can't quite do it in their current roles. A lot of people will take on BRG responsibilities in order to build their leadership muscles, which is really great, as well as help kind of, for me, kind of helps fuel passions that I have. One of my big passions is diversity as a Black woman. So being able to work in BRGs and be part of those and lead those not only help me kind of flex and build that little muscle of my passion muscle, it also allows me to be able to show leadership that I'm able to do some things that I might not be able to do in the current role that I have. So they're really great opportunities.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Monique. So with that, I'll pass it on to my colleague from CIB, Sajani.
Great. Thank you, Will. I think that, Subhash, you're going to share, right? Okay. Okay, great. I think we have everything going. So everyone should see my screen now in the Zoom, right?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. So thanks again, Will. Hi, everyone. I'm Sajani Giria, and I've been at JP Morgan now for 7 years and in financial services for the past 20 years. I currently work in JPMC's corporate investment bank, and specifically I'm supporting the security services business. The demo that I'm going to show you today is for what we call Client Service Workspace, the Studio application. And I'm going to first set a little bit of context before I get into the demo. And as you can see in my screen share, what I'm showing you is an actual example of an operational dashboard that we have created by using the CSW Studio tool. So this dashboard was actually created for our security services operations users, and it helps them to identify and remediate trade processing exceptions. I'm going to show you the two main components that make up this dashboard. So first, over here, we have a portlet. So if you're familiar with Excel, this is basically a pivot, and it's summarizing an underlining set of data. And similar to Excel, when you view this pivot, you can actually view it as a tabular form, or you can also view it in various chart forms as well. So here we're actually using high chart utilities that allow us to show, the various different charting options as well. The second component that I'm going to show you is what we call a list view. I'm going to bring that up here. So this is very similar to an online Excel data grid. And this is basically showing you the raw data that was used to create the underlining pivot table. So now, just to give you a little bit of the history, before we had the CSW Studio application, each and every portlet that you see on this page and each and every list view that we would link to here would require a developer to create a custom piece of code to satisfy those business requirements. So each of these requests that we got from our business users could take several months from requirements to production release. So that, again, is the old model. So now I'm going to bring you into CSW Studio and the 2.0 platform. So with this new framework, what we've actually done is we've created a generic piece of code, one piece of code to render and display portlets, and another for rendering and displaying list views. And we've made those generic pieces of code configuration driven. So this was, if you can imagine, this was a very significant shift between what we had before and what we had in the past. So now when a business user request comes in for a new portlet or a new data grid, there's actually no new code development that's required. Instead, what we have is a business analyst would go through the CSW Studio wizard, which I'm going to show you, and configure this new portlet or the list view. And the configuration process takes a matter of hours, or when we're going to do quickly in this demo, if in minutes. compared to the several months that it used to take in the old model to develop, again, a custom piece of code for each of these pieces. So you can imagine that this tool has really improved time to market and reduced the bespoke custom development. So now I'm going to jump into, if the system's going to cooperate, into the tool itself. So as I'm going through the workflow and the components, just keep in mind the operational dashboard that I showed you originally, right? To keep in mind what the end product is and what we're actually trying to configure. So the first step in the workflow is actually what we call data source configuration. So you can think of this step as choosing which data source or which database you want to obtain your underlying data. The next step is data set configuration. So think of this more like which table or which view inside, let's say, an Oracle database you want to get your underlying data from. And then now I'm actually going to jump into the demo, and we're going to get into the list view and the portlet creation, where you're going to find a crux of the key features that we support. Okay, so the first step is when you create a new list view, is to choose the underlying data set. Like we said, first we created a data source and we've created a data set. So I'm going to actually choose my Aladdin cache and position exception monitor. So okay, so I chose my underlying data set. This is where I'm going to be getting all of the columns. Okay, so on this next screen, you see that this top section is basically showing me a list of all the columns that are available in the underlying data set. And the bottom section is actually showing me a sample data, which we're dynamically loading from the underlying data source. And this is going to assist me in the design process, right? So some of the things I can do here, I can drag and drop these columns, right? So when I drag and drop a column here, you can see on the bottom, it's immediately reflected. I can change the names. These are right now the column names. So if I want to give it more business-friendly names, change the column names. From a few more fields here. These are actually the differences that our operations users use as part of their reconciliation. So this pin here is very similar to Excel when you can freeze a pane. So I'm going to pin a few of these columns here as well. So the good thing here, again, it's a what you see is what you get, right? So every change that I make on the top section here, it's reflecting in the bottom data grid. So I'm getting a real-time view as I make changes, what the data grid's actually going to look like. So now I can go to the next step. Here I have a few grid options, right? So I can choose the primary key, and I can also enable export to Excel, which is going to allow the users to download some of the data from this data grid to Excel. And here I can create what we call a hard filter. So this is pretty much just a select. If you think of a SQL query, it's giving me the option to do a filter, right? So let's say we have some ops users that are focused on a particular asset class. I can choose to create a hard filter, and I'll say, let's look where security type equals, and I'll put in here equity. Okay, I'm going to save this. So now I'm just going to, we have quite a bit of data, so I'm going to filter on some of the list views that I've created today. This is the one. So I'm going to see a preview of it. I should copy this. Okay, so you can see that the list view that I created here, right? You can see it available in this tab over here. So you can see, what used to take a developer, like I said, several weeks in terms of requirements, development, production, all of that can now be done with this tool just by going through, picking and choosing the data set that you're interested in, choosing the columns that you want to see on your grid, figuring out the column order, changing the column names. All of this, again, is configuration and no new code development. You could see we did this in minutes, but many of our data sets have hundreds of columns. So, it could take a few days to complete the list view creation. So, okay, so now I'm going to actually show you portlet creation, the next step. Let's see.
Satya,
Okay.
what kind of back end are you using?
So in terms of some of the technologies that you use, we use from a front end perspective, it's mostly React front end. And then from a back end perspective, we're using Java 8, we're using Spring Boot. We have an Oracle database to store some of our configuration and metadata. We're using REST APIs to get all of the data. Underlining data is coming from various data sources,
Right.
primarily from HBase and big data currently. And then we also use iBaddies to do some of our ORM management and caching.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, so the first step in portlet creation is, again, you pick an underlining list view. So I'm going to choose the same data set that we're working with previously. So you see that the layout of this page is really modeled out of Excel's pivot capability. So you have the 4 different quadrants over here. Similar to the list view, you have a sample data set at the bottom to help you in your design, right? You want to get some of the sample data points so you can create the pivot that you're looking for. So let me start creating my pivot here. I'm gonna, I want to show all the exceptions by responsible party, right? So this is the different operations groups that are responsible for remediating these exceptions. So the great thing here, again, is that as I drag and drop, similar to Excel, I can see a real-time view of what this pivot is going to look like, and it really helps me in terms of quick change iteration. I'm going to add one more piece here, which is going to be status. I want to see what's the status of my exceptions. So I can put this here. Okay, good. And then you can also add column filters, similar that you could do in the list view if I wanted to filter out any of these pieces. And I can name the portlet. So let's say this is Latin hash exception. Gonna save this. Okay, so pretty much, again, similar to the list view, what we've done is we've taken what used to take a developer several weeks, if not months, from requirements to production release, and we've been able to do that using the CSW Studio tool to create the configuration, right, which is going to then be used by those generic portlet and list view pieces I was talking about before from a dashboard perspective. So, we've gone through how to create a list view, how to create a portlet, and the next step is really creating a dashboard, right? So coming back to this dashboard that we started with, this is using a JPMM framework in terms of creating dashboards. So each of these, what we call widgets here, are actually portlets that are created in CSW Studio. And if I click on this edit button here, you're going to see the edit interface for this JPMM dashboard framework. I'm sorry,
So are these like traders or analysts, business analysts, or combination of people using this front end?
It's pretty much operations, right? Because from a security services perspective, we're working with, our asset managers to ensure that their trades are being processed and settled properly. Right. So our operations users are using this dashboard in terms of any trade breaks, right? Trades that didn't settle. Why didn't they settle? Where are they in the process? Is there an issue with the broker or with the client? And those are the, the exceptions that our operations users are looking at on this dashboard.
Right.
I think that the edit right here isn't coming up, but really it's more of a drag and drop. So if you have the ability to edit, you can see all of the available portlets that were created in CSW Studio. You can actually then drag them into the interface. You can actually size them automatically as well, right? So you can see that we've taken a process that was very bespoke, that required a lot of custom Java development, and we've created more of a generic framework where you have only, a few pieces of generic Java code, which is all configuration driven. You then have the CSW Studio tool, which allows you to create that configuration. And once those list views and widgets have been created, you can actually register it into the JPMM dashboard framework and then create your pages dynamically, right? By dragging and dropping the portlets into the page and also doing some resizing. So I know we covered quite a bit of content. So if we have questions, we can take them probably in the breakout sessions when we do the networking component.
Very nice.
Yep. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop my screen share and I'm going to hand it off to Subhash.
Thank you, Sajani. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you fine.
Excellent. Good evening, everyone. My name is Subhash Kumar. I am a software engineer here within JP Morgan Chase, within an organization called Platform Services. I'll be talking about what the organization does in just a minute. I'm just about finishing 3 years at JP Morgan Chase. I spent my number of years at IBM before I came to JP Morgan Chase. I absolutely had no idea about financial services or banking or anything of that sort. And I think I still don't, but it's getting better. My dad was a banker all his life, and I thought I would never work in a bank, but here I am. Right. So my role here in JP Morgan Chase is very identical, to client-facing solution architect roles that you might have known at large public cloud providers such as AWS or Azure. And I spend the majority of my time helping number of application teams. You saw an example of an application from the previous presenter. Application teams such as those understand and use our cloud platform and services as they either modernize their existing applications or build new cloud native apps. So here is roughly what I have for you. You need to bear with me talking through some slides for a little bit. And I'm going to briefly cover what our organization does and the products and the platforms we build. I also have my colleague and teammate, Satyan, with me, who will be talking to you in a little while later with a demonstration of a business critical application that uses our platform. So that you get the comprehensive end-to-end view of what we build, at the same time, how what we build gets used. So what do we do, right? Platform services, our vision and mission in a single line is to build the best possible platform for our developers. What does it actually mean, right? JP Morgan Chase has more than 50,000 technologists in our workforce. Yes, we are the biggest bank in the world, dealing with trillions of dollars and a pillar in the global financial system and so on. But I like to think, and I think it's generally true, that fundamentally we are a technology company, right? With probably the biggest tech workforce for a non-IT company. What differentiates our company is the innovative technology we have, and literally the thousands of applications behind the scenes that keep our bank and the enterprise going. So within this global technology organization at Chase, I am a part of a group that focuses on infrastructure. And for many years now, when you think of infrastructure, you think of cloud. Our group, Platform Services, builds and operates the company's private cloud. When you think of cloud, you immediately think of AWS, Azure, Google, and rightfully so, right? These are the companies that pioneered many of the technologies that make up cloud today. JP Morgan, much like many large enterprises out there, has embraced this notion of a hybrid cloud, where we leverage public cloud when it makes sense, AWS, Azure, you name it. And at the same time, we are transforming our internal infrastructure to be a world-class cloud platform, which is fine-tuned for financial services, serving a single client ourselves. The platform services organization builds and operates this private cloud. If you are a technology geek, what could be more cooler than that? Right? We are building the best private cloud platform for thousands of applications that keep our firm, our economy, and perhaps a key part of the entire world's financial system functional.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we brand this private cloud as Gaia. Right? Gaia, if you might know from Greek mythology, is the mother of all gods. And internally, the Gaia cloud is our mothership, if you will. To build this cloud platform, we essentially organize ourselves into a number of subgroups that you see listed on the slide that I'm sharing. For example, the platform engineering group builds our core cloud and analytics runtime platforms based on technologies such as Cloud Foundry, Kubernetes, and so on. The services engineering group builds an ecosystem of cloud native infrastructure services, things like databases, messaging, analytics. Will and Monique, who you heard from at the beginning of the discussion, these are folks that are leaders in the services engineering organization that own and lead specific products in that pillar. The integration engineering organization builds key elements of our integration to connect our private cloud and manage things such as centralized billing, identity, access management, and so on. Platform frameworks team builds critical frameworks such as a service marketplace and a service mesh that make the consumption of our products and platforms much more easy. You'll hear more about observability from Satyan shortly, so I'll skip that for a moment. And last but not the least is the client services function, what is being called the Gaia client services on the slide, which is where I fall, and Satyan. We are responsible for the engagement and support of our clients, of our consumers, essentially these thousands of application teams, these thousands of developers that use our products and platforms to build and run the applications that keep the bank running. And finally, right, I just want to add a little bit more color to how we build our Gaia private cloud before I hand over to my colleague Satyan. We predominantly run open source products, right, offering a full range of platforms with things such as Cloud Foundry for offering a platform as a service capability. We have doubled down on Kubernetes, right, as our strategic container as a service platform. And at the same time, we are constantly evolving and adapting newer technologies such as Istio-based service mesh and other things such as Knative for offering functions as a service capability. We are maniacally focused on automation and scale, and we run highly scalable and proven messaging and database products such as Kafka, Cassandra, CockroachDB, you name it. Many of these offerings and services that you see on the public cloud providers, we pick and choose a subset of them for what we think are most suited for this type of applications we run, and we run them as a part of our private cloud. We are constantly pushing the frontier of what a cloud platform should offer. And we are doing all of this by cultivating a strong team of multi-skilled infrastructure developers that builds and owns what they develop, and they are obsessed with providing the best developer experience for the firm's technology community. Okay. So with that, I'll hand over to my colleague Satyan to take it away.
Thank you, Subhash. Let's go to slide 11. 10, please. Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Satyan Nair, and I work for the same organization as Subhash. So I'm going to skip the part about where I am. So thank you so much, Subhash. You gave a very good overview of who we are and what is platform services. So just to continue that conversation, we basically manage one of the largest on-prem cloud platform, and we also manage a suite of cloud-enabled products that help the AppDev community to build applications faster and deploy their solutions faster. So my manager always says that if you do cool things, ask the question, so what? Right? So we have built a gigantic platform here. So who are we building it for? What kind of application should we be running on it? What kind of business does this platform help enable? That's a story we want you to connect with, right? So I'm taking the liberty to assume that everybody has a debit card. Most of you must be having a Chase account. Most of you must have gone to a Chase branch and used an ATM machine. So I'm going to share the smallest unit of work that is running on the platform and the direct impact that it has to people like you and me. So we also need to understand how much thought might have gone into not only building the app, but also to understand how the app is performing, if the platform is healthy or the application is healthy. So what you're seeing, can we go to slide 10, please, Subhash?
Yep. One second.
While you're switching the slide, I did not put Satya up to saying that. I'm very proud that you said the so what thing. And as far as everybody having a debit card, I think what we definitely don't know that everybody has one, but we know that half of the people here have one because it's 1 in 2.
Yes.
1 in 2 have a Chase account.
It's right. You know, it's hard to understand or wrap your head around how large this firm is, really. I mean, the amount of money and the number of accounts is massive.
Right. So what you're seeing here is a typical flow of an ATM transaction. So the very first step of the transaction is, can you guess what it could be? It's authentication, right? We key into a keypad, a PIN number, and that gets authentication. That's a transaction. It may seem like a very simple operation, but it is not when we look into the volume of that particular transactions, right? So let's take a look at the numbers here, right? So we have, JPMC has roughly 5,100 branches. We have roughly 16,000 plus ATMs, and we do roughly 1 billion plus transaction per month. And I'm talking about only that authentication piece where you're basically keying in something into the keypad and your PIN is getting validated and authenticated, right? And we also do 1,000 plus transaction per second. And our SLAs are to return the results within 140 milliseconds, right? That's pretty impressive. So let me also provide a very high level 30,000 feet overview of the technical stack. So Subhash already mentioned that we have 2 big platforms, Gaia application platform and Gaia Kubernetes platform. So this particular application which does authentication has roughly 8 microservices deployed into 2 Kubernetes clusters spread across 2 data centers. And each microservice is scaled up to 4 pods for resiliency purposes. Each of these microservices inside the pods are talking to each other via service mesh architecture. And this team is using Envoy as a service mesh component. So let's talk about briefly about observability, right? What is observability? So if you quickly Google, observability is an ability for as developers to know and discover what is going on within the platform. In practice, it means that it's adding telemetry to our platform so that we can measure the change that is occurring within the platform. So the next question will be, what is telemetry? So telemetry is basically the science which gives us some kind of breadcrumbs that allows us to investigate a behavior that is happening within the system. So if you are an app dev team or an SRE team, you'll be interested to know how our application is doing, and how my platform is doing. So the platform that we have built is generating a ton of events and metrics. So we have built a custom solution that will help capture these events and metrics and help the app dev teams to have eyes into the platform, right? This is very important because app dev teams are bringing their workload and they want to be confident on our platform, right? So can we go to the next slide, please? So what we are going to show you is a very small dashboard here, and it basically is a mix of app dev metrics as well as platform metrics. So if you notice, there are roughly 16 transactions currently executing every second, right? Sorry, it's 11 on the slide, but in the real-time dashboard, it is at 16 transactions per second. concurrently being executed. These transactions are spread across 2 data centers. So if you see in the middle, there is an orange and green chart that shows that how the transactions are distributed across the data center. The AppDev team is also tracking the number of failures that are happening, and they are also tracking the response time that each transaction is having, right?
Satya, and those are the PIN authentications. Is that
this is only the PIN authentication? So we are not even talking about after the PIN authentication. There are so many transactions that happens, right? You might want to go do a deposit. You might want to go withdraw money, or you might want to do some other operations like so those are different transactions. We are only talking about the PIN transaction here.
Right.
So yes. So that's what we wanted to talk about today. So platform services is not only responsible for building and managing the platform, but we have a very close partnership with our customers to help bring their workload and help them to run it and manage it on their own, right? So next time when you go to a Chase ATM, I hope you remember that your digital experience is the most secure and lies with the best in the world. So thank you all for giving the time and listening. Thank you all.
I will say our ATMs are second to none. I mean, I've gone to all the I won't mention the ones that I've gone to, but our ATMs, I think, are very hot. I mean, we always seem to always be in the forefront. Every time I go to the other ones, I'm like, this is not a real ATM.
Thank you. Thank you, Will.
Thank you. And off to the next presenter.
I think we're going to hand off to you. Perfect.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Nana Adai, and I am a product owner, like a few other folks on this call. Thanks so much for joining us today. So similar to a lot of other folks on this call where we talk about mobility, I actually think about it more in flexibility for JP Morgan, in that I was an advisor for 10 years in the wealth management space and have been in the product ownership space for just this past 1 year. And I'm going to demo for you a tool that we're creating for our advisors to help them more efficiently create investment proposal recommendations for our clients and for our prospects. So we're going to take a lot of the tools and things that you've just seen that we use to deliver this, and we're going to kind of give you this application that works with our employees that eventually goes out to our clients as well. And I'm also joined by one of my tech partners who's going to go through some of the probably more interesting to you on the technical side, Ricardo. So let me just go ahead and share my screen and get the demo started. Okay. So basically what you'll see on this screen is the entry point that an advisor is going through. And you'll see right here that we're using the Gaia Cloud. So that was not intentional, but it's a great platform for us. I'm just going to put in like a dummy client here and show that basically we're pulling information from a database for an advisor who covers this particular quote unquote client and allow us to build a new portfolio for this person. Okay. And what that does is it brings us to a centralized database where we're able to pull the client's current exposure for all different types of accounts that they currently have. And because we're trying to eventually get them to an investment that they'll understand over time to achieve goals, to buy things in the future, we go ahead and we pull together these accounts. And you can see over to the side that we're slowly tracking an asset allocation. And so this brings a lot of different things together for us. But ultimately what we're doing is we're leveraging a lot of the tools that our portfolio managers are using to create portfolios. And we're kind of bringing that down to the advisor to help them kind of put all of those building blocks together. So you'll see that we'll choose accounts. And then we'll go to this place where if the advisor says, you know what, I'd really like to build a balanced type model, or I want to build something that's a little bit more aggressive, we're then going into our systems again and we're pre-populating certain grids that exist in wealth management, and we're letting the user use those as a guide. And then we're also providing a lot of flexibility. If instead they want to come in here and create a custom benchmark, we start letting them go through that process of creating something that's custom. But I think for the purposes of this, we'll just stick with a simple balanced allocation. And really the purpose of this is, I mean, the steps that we've gone through right now are just absolutely streamlining so much of what is currently done through a lot of Excel spreadsheets and a lot of junior people's time in aggregating a lot of information. And so we're able to save people time, but we're also able to decrease the amount of errors that could happen in transposing a lot of this information by going to a golden source of information. So here you'll see that we've got our target allocation, which is that 55,540 that we picked on the last page. And then this represents sort of all of the things that I had chosen on the first page. And here I can say this is a great allocation that I have for this particular person. But what I'd really like to do is I'd like to change it up a little bit. And so what we do is we go into our databases and we actually pull out different types of strategies that our users can add to these portfolios. We even allow them to choose stocks. And this is typically what would happen if you were to get a proposal from somebody. And then we kind of put them all in a shopping cart and we put them in this page here, and you'll see that we've actually delineated which types of strategies are new. We've got some great validation logic here. So if you try to spend more money than you actually have, you can't do that. We've also got some great logic that allows us to pre-populate if a particular strategy has a minimum. So again, that takes away some of the work that the user has to do in looking through all of the minimums and trying to decide whether or not a particular strategy can work. You can see here that we're a little bit over. So we have the ability to go into one of our accounts where we could potentially raise a little bit of cash and create a little bit of breathing room. And the nice thing about this is that we actually also are able to show that you now have some unallocated cash that you're able to play with. And another feature I'll just show you quickly is we're also able to pull from another database some just sort of golden source information about all of these different strategies, so that right at their fingertips, a user can understand exactly what's going on in this particular strategy and what the implications might be if they add it to that proposal. And so, yeah.
Well, got a quick question. Is this for the wealth managers or for end users and customers? Just curious who the end users are.
Yeah, so this is particularly for the advisors in wealth management.
Okay.
Yeah. And so this is a brand new application. So it's been really fun to build as someone who was an advisor and kind of understands this process, but is actually new to technology and design. And so my tech and design partners have been vital, and it's just been really a lot of fun. And I would even say on the technology side, it's been great because I pull them in so that they can actually listen to user feedback. So even when we were back in the wireframe stage, they could listen in and hear if it was resonating with them, what the path looked like. And then when we started getting the initial information. So I think it helped them just sort of be closer to the project as well.
Nice, very nice.
Okay. And then I'll show you in the case of just adding another amount here, you can see that we're actually pulling in information from databases that allows us to populate actual positions. And so this is the type of work that we're doing. Let me just increase this a little bit more. We'll get through this validation. And so we want to make sure that our users are actually let me just go back over here. There we go. So we'll give some functionality here. So if you see that, I was able to toggle back and forth, and that way I was able to find an amount that will work, and that'll get me to the analytics portion. And this is a great feature because this really kind of goes to the power of a lot of the analytic tools that our PMs have at their disposal that our advisors don't quite have at their disposal. And so we're able to look through information. We're able to calculate different risk and return parameters for them. We're able to look through comparing the proposal, the current, and just kind of use some of the more fun components inside of our ecosystem to be able to display information in a way that the user or finally the client may be able to sort of better be able to digest it. And then we've also gone to this point here where we're starting to create kind of that end product and just looking at ways that we can kind of help the user understand like what this final product is going to look like in the end, and then at the end having the ability to generate a report. So it's really this kind of soup to nuts process that we're able to sort of walk through and develop. And since this is only sort of one step in a large process of kind of talking to our clients, we are, really in touch with all of the folks who are sort of like on the other side of either of this, this application, so that this can be like really seamless and go across the entire life cycle of what it would look like to give a client a recommendation. So that is just an overview of kind of going through the demo. I'm actually now going to pull up some information here that I think overview of kind of through the demo. I'm actually now going to pull up information here that I just overview of kind of through the demo. I'm actually now going to pull up information here that I just overview of through the demo. I'm actually now going to.
Well, that's interesting. Are you guys hearing the echo?
There's probably a bug on Zoom. So.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and hit mute all. And then Nana or Ricardo, you guys could just unmute yourselves.
Excellent. Yeah, so that was definitely a strange bug. So I guess we can go ahead if you all can hear me.
She froze up on her end. So who was next?
Yep, yeah. I think we're good, Will.
Yes. So I
think Ricardo would present the technical aspect of the application, right, Ricardo?
Right.
That's right. All right. So if you all can hear me well, my name is Ricardo Arndt. I'm a software engineer with the team that develops the wealth management digital portfolio insights application that Nana just demoed. And I guess before we jump into the details, just wanted to tell you guys that we are definitely here as a testament as well to everything that Subhash, Satya, and Josh talked about before about the Gaia, our private cloud platform, because we have been using that heavily, and it's definitely a fantastic platform that empowers us to develop and release things much more frequently. So many of the things that we're going to go through now, it's actually thanks to what the Gaia platform allows us to do. And what we're gonna talk about is mostly what is behind the scenes from the application that you just saw, right? So how we engineer that, our practices, and mostly we're going to be talking about the things that we love most, right? So we are quite passionate about our development process, the technologies that we are using, and above all, to be working with such great product owners as Nana and her team. So when we talk about this partnership with the product owners, one of the key things that it allows us to have in our day-to-day and basically allow us to deliver so quick and so fast is following a well-structured agile practice, right? And we do try to do that very closely to what we hear about Scrum, almost by the book, with all the ceremonies and everything, but mainly because we have our partners literally embrace the process and understand Agile just like as software engineers we do. And Nana and the product ownership team basically practice the same things, and we can do very efficiently. So as part of our Agile practices, we have our stories being written by our product owners in such a way that we can easily come in and translate to our software development practices. We have our regular grooming sessions where we literally spend time between technology and the product owners to try to understand what we have to do, what to build. We make sure that our development team works very closely with the product owner, so there is no information lost in translation as we do it. And this has literally given us an edge that we haven't seen at least I haven't seen in my previous project. So we are definitely thankful for all this great partnership that we have. And as we go through these items, you're going to see how it translates into like test automation and other things like this, right? So Agile development is something that we take to our heart and basically practice that very enthusiastically across our day-to-day activities, all the meetings that we have and everything. And when we bring in the next thing, which is continuous integration and continuous deployment and release, we are actually able to wrap it up everything and crank it up features quickly. So from the time that we go and discuss with Nana and the team what is needed to be done until we get that feature deployed, right? We had a very short cycle where we leverage as well as much automation as we can. So automation is definitely something that we are passionate about. If there is something repetitive that we have to do, we automate, or we try at least automate whatever we can. And we have to recognize that JP Morgan itself has a very extensive program and a big push for us to do this, exactly that, right? So basically shift everything left, shift everything that we can to the beginning of the process in an automated way so we can actually focus on the software development and release that feature to our users quickly. So we are able to kind of shorten this feedback cycle by releasing the features quickly, get the feedback from our users, come back, enhance, and keep doing the cycle as much as we can. So this is one of the things that our private cloud and as well the public cloud that we use, AWS, allows us to move quickly because we literally can develop and deploy things in a very fast pace. One other thing that we love to talk about that we have implemented is, and we are actually achieving a very good level of test automation. So this not only includes regular unit testing, integration testing that we are all used to, but we are also able to automate acceptance testing. And here comes a very important link from what we were talking about, that Nana and her team as product owners go and write the stories in a very structured way, is that we can take those stories written and basically implement them using Cucumber and Gherkin language in a sort of a behavior-driven development approach. So we take that structured stories or business requirements definition that we have initially written by Nana and her team and convert that into executable tasks. So at the same pace that we develop these features, we are actually implementing and automating all these continuous checks. And whenever we build a new, or we release a new version of the application, or the developer just goes and make one little change, we have this whole cycle that the application being tested, looking for regressions and for things that don't conform to what was specified in the beginning. So traditionally, we just go and sit and demo the application at the end of the sprint to be able to review and make sure that everything that was requested is implemented. But we are adding this additional level of automation to make sure that application can be validated and confirmed to be working properly, right? So here we are using Cucumber, which is a known framework or a known structure for doing this test, and Puppeteer, which is actually the JavaScript implementation that goes and manipulates the Chrome browser as if it was a user. So basically a robot playing with the application and validating the scenarios. The next item I want to talk about is chaos engineering, which I see there is one misspelled word in the slide, engineering. So it looks like our test automation didn't catch that, but nevertheless, We are also practicing and more actually chaos engineering. So this is also in the spirit of shifting everything left, which means bringing everything to the beginning of our process, which is experimenting with our application in the deployed environments to literally evaluate and understand how it would behave under strenuous conditions, or even how it would behave in case of a chaos, right? If you have our network is slowing down for some reason, I don't know, if a machine as part of our clusters fail, if the database is unavailable. So basically creating experiments that kind of simulate a sort of a disaster, or maybe not as critical as a disaster, but just some failures. So we actually understand what happens and how our application behaves. So for example, how it degrades, the responses become slower. If we present the users with the proper error messages so they understand what is going on, or then falling back to other data centers, servers, or infrastructure. So with chaos engineering, we are basically trying to bring this knowledge to us as close and as fast as possible. So when things actually happen in production, our application is ready to deal with them, right? And you can think like this, it's an experimentation and learning cycle in such a way that we experiment, we learn what happened, and then we actually implement and improve our application to handle those. But at the same time, it's actually giving knowledge on how to handle the application if it happens in a production-like scenario. So it is literally a learning and improving experience. And lastly, I just wanted to talk a little bit about our tech stack, which is something we're very happy to work with. We are all working with like cutting edge technology, the latest and greatest, and we have to emphasize that this is a greenfield application that we are building from scratch. So sometimes starting or working with an application which is legacy code base and all, we may not be able to do everything that we are talking about here, but definitely in this case, we have this advantage. And our application today is deployed as we mentioned in the private cloud using multiple Gaia services. So we leverage both the Gaia application platform and the Kubernetes environment, as Subhash explained before, but as well as other services like the Gaia Kafka. We do have components deployed to AWS, and where we are kind of leveraging the elasticity that the platform provides, and using Kubernetes and Docker as a key thing to allow us to literally move components across public and private cloud as needed, as we believe, as we see fit, because that's sort of abstract us from the underlying platform and gives us the ability to move quickly as we need. So as one example, we started deploying almost everything in the Gaia private cloud as we understood that a given component would make more sense to move to AWS. The fact that we are using Kubernetes on both sides makes it very easy to transition and deploy across the board. We have our backend services mostly written in Java 11. We are using Python as well for most of the analytics that you saw in the demo that Nana showed. We are using React.js for the user interface, applying reactive programming principles, and even using across our components. And as mentioned before, using AWS as our private cloud and Gaia as the AWS as the public cloud and Gaia as the private cloud, and as well leveraging other services like Kafka, for example. So
real quick, what is your approximate mix between private and public cloud in terms of your technologies right now in your space?
At this point, I would say that it's like 50-50, but we are kind of moving components around depending on how we see fit. Right. Especially for analytics and things that really need to the elasticity to scale on demand and then shrink. We are moving mostly to AWS now.
Okay, very nice.
Cool. So that's pretty much it.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Ricardo. Thank you, Nana. Thank you, Sabush. Thank you, Satyan. Thank you, Sajani. You guys all did a fantastic job. And to all of our guests that called in tonight, thank you so much for spending your evening with us. I hope you had an opportunity, or you feel that you learned more about JP Morgan, our technologies, our products, our projects, and what it is that we work on and with. So now we're actually going to transition to networking. I know that you haven't had an opportunity yet to ask our presenters questions, but this is going to be the time for you to do that, as well as meet with more JP Morgan representatives. So what I did was I have broken all of you out into 4 different networking rooms. In a minute, you're going to receive a little pop-up box on your screen that's going to invite you to join the breakout room. Please hit join, and then you'll all be magically reappeared into your networking rooms, where you'll have roughly 15 minutes to learn more about each other. For the JP Morgan folks, feel free to talk about more projects that you're working on. For our guests, we're very interested in learning more about you, so please share more about your interests and your goals, and if you're in technology, what it is that you're working on. We have a lot of opportunities, over 250 across New York Metro. Many of our representatives actually have open recs on their roles, so they're very interested in meeting you tonight. So with that, in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and open the rooms. Just so you know, in about 15 minutes, the JP Morgan people will sort of disappear out of your room, and they will reappear in another room, giving you all more options and more people to meet with and talk to tonight. All right? All right, so here we go. You should get your notifications now.
Hi, Shilpi.